Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Well, I'd like to welcome Chris Walton, who's the Broward County Transportation Director, to our show this morning. Thanks for being here with us.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here.
It's always a pleasure. You have such a big responsibility. You know, when someone hears the director of the transportation for Broward County, it's like, how does he even sleep at night?
Well, for the most part, I've got a great team that works with me. So it's not just me. I mean, I've got a team of 1,100 people that work with me that make my job a lot easier.
Right. I understand that, but you have to have, it's always at the top. It comes down, you know, the power comes down from the top, and if you're a good executive, it works well. Now, of course, since I've been having you on our radio show, I look at those buses as they're going by when I'm in Broward County, and they're different shapes and sizes.
That's true. That's true, because what we try to do is make sure that we have the right tool for the job. In some of our corridors, we have very heavy traffic and very heavy ridership. So on those corridors, such as 441, we need the larger buses, the 60-foot buses, because the smaller buses won't carry the loads that we have. On some of the other corridors that are less traveled, we can actually put smaller buses.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I think I do want to talk about, and of course this program is always for seniors, but I do want to compliment Chris that he did an excellent, interview on radio yesterday. And it was so clear. I learned so much yesterday. It wasn't just, you know, what you do, because I've known a lot of it, but I didn't know some of the other things. And maybe you just could take a minute, because we know that there's a tax coming up, and we want to talk about that.
Okay, sure. Well, I think that the important thing to know is that the tax that we will speak of a bit later, there's something in this plan for everyone. It's a mobility plan for Broward County, and it's not just buses and trains. There are opportunities to move people and goods around this county that will extend to all regions of the county, and it will affect everyone. For example, the thing that we're finding that a lot of people are excited about are the traffic mitigation measures that we're putting in place. One of the big complaints that we get is people say, well, why do I have to sit at a traffic light when there's no cross traffic? Well, that's because the traffic signals are programmed by time of day. What we want to do as part of this plan, if we're successful, is to place fiber optic cable in the ground throughout the entire county that allows us to measure traffic in real time and make traffic signal adjustments in real time. So it's actually measuring the traffic in real time and adjusting the lights as necessary. So you won't have to necessarily wait a minute or 2 minutes for a traffic cycle to change. It's looking at the traffic conditions as they exist at that moment and making the necessary adjustments.
And I was thinking about, as you were talking, that they do know where we are. Satellites know everywhere, right? So they see the traffic. They know it, but it's one thing to see it, but then it's something else to be able to control it. So I guess that's really high tech, and I'm sure you've been looking into this for a while.
Well, you know, our traffic engineering division has been installing this fiber optic cable throughout the county, but the unfortunate part is that we just don't have the revenues to do all that we need to do as quickly as we need to do. In our long-range plans, they have it programmed out for a number of years, but if we're successful with the sales tax venture, then we can expedite that process. And if we can do that, then we can lay the fiber much more quickly throughout the county. And again, everyone on the roads benefits, not only people in cars, but people who are walking across the street, because the traffic lights, again, will be measuring the actual real-time movement of cars. And if there's no cars moving, then people can actually cross streets even better. So it benefits pedestrians, bicyclists, and everyone in cars. So, again, everybody benefits from this program.
Are you an engineer by education? You sound like it.
Well, you know, in my early days, you know, I did a little bit of engineering work.
Yeah, I knew you would, because some of these are, you know, sometimes administrators, that's not their thing. But this does take someone who understands it to be able to say, yes, well, we want that. No, we don't want that. Okay, so that's one thing. But the major part of this bill, isn't it to help seniors?
Well, there's an absolute major part of this bill that we've placed in here to address senior mobility. We recognize that our county is growing. We recognize by the year 2030 that we will probably have another 250 50,000 more people living here. So
In Broward County?
In Broward County. And we also recognize that within our county, the fastest growth in the age group is a 65 and older. So what we're seeing is almost an exponential growth in transportation needs and services for the elderly and for people who have some form of disability. So what we have built into this program, and the program is a 30-year, $15.5 billion program. Over $2.5 billion of that will be dedicated for senior, elderly, and disabled transportation purposes.
Yay.
Yeah, and we need to make sure that our seniors have safe, effective transportation and have the ability to get out of their homes and enjoy their lives. We want to make sure that they've got access to transportation that gets them the same place that you and I might want to go, or the same place that anybody else in this county want to go. We want to make sure that they've got the ability to do all the things that they want and need to do. And we built that into this surtax.
It's great. As a matter of fact, as you were talking, I was thinking I attended the Broward Health North community meeting, and there were about 25 people there, and they talked about a lot of subjects, but one subject was, and two people said, we have to do something about transportation. And then I spoke up and I said, well, and I told them about you and that you're working hard on it, and they wanted these small little buses to go into these little communities, and I said, they do this, but they don't know that you're there unless you tell them. And so I did direct them to your office because we know that there are a lot of people who can't get around, and they do live in small communities. And I know that you wanted to address that and what you do for them.
Well, again, and for that group or any group, I would love to come out and speak to them to let them know exactly what we do. But we have what's called our Paratransit program, which is a program that it's a door-to-door service for those who qualify. Now, not everyone is eligible, but typically it's a program for seniors and for people who have either a physical or cognitive disability that for whatever reason can't use our regular bus system or have no other means for transportation. We, on a scheduled basis, will come and pick you up at your home and deliver you to anywhere in Broward County that you need to go. We want to make sure, and this is a decision that was made by a county commission years ago, that we would cover the entire county. Now, I don't want to get too technical here, but the law requires us to provide what's called equal access transportation, 3/4 of a mile either side of where our fixed bus route goes. What that means is if we only did that there would be gaps within the county where people could not go. But again, our county commission years ago made the decision that we would not have those limitations, and then we would cover our entire county. And we've even made arrangements with Palm Beach County and Dade County for transfers. So if you live in Broward and you want to transfer to a Dade or Miami-Dade County bus or a Palm Beach County bus, we worked it out with those transit systems where we actually meet at the county lines and you can transfer.
That's wonderful. I'm so glad that you're here today on our radio show, that people know this, because this isn't something that gets into the newspapers or on TV, and it's something you just said. I will certainly tell the Broward North administration that at one of their meetings you would like to come and talk and see if they can make that happen. I'm sure they will.
I would love to.
Because all these organizations that go there are not-for-profits, most of them. And they all have so many people, most of whom are seniors. And if they knew that, and they should know it, but people don't do what they should. We know that.
Well, in addition to that, we offer programs for not-for-profits. If they've got self-contained programs that they offer for seniors, we will actually provide buses with the state, and we'll actually provide money for them to operate their own programs. If they want to pick up their own seniors and deliver them to their locations and take them home, we actually have programs where we can subsidize their transportation programs, and we do that for a number of entities across the county. So I would certainly like to talk to them. Maybe that's something they'd be interested in.
It would be. My guest, as I said earlier, is Chris Walton. He's the Broward County Transportation Director. You can actually get on their website, and it is broward.org/BCT for Broward County Transportation. Broward.org/BCT. Okay, well, maybe it's time for us to talk about what's coming up for the election. Oh, my gosh, we have 4 people watching you. Carol Lang, Sandy Pallett. Oh, you want to tag Robert? There's another person, Robert Mazel, wants to know if you would tag him. No, we'll just keep going with you. It's okay. Okay, so let's talk about the big thing coming up on November the 6th.
On November 6th, on the ballot this year, and again, we have a very long ballot. So I need to let everyone know that we're on page 3 of the ballot. So you need to vote your entire ballot, but please look for it on page 3. And basically what it is a sales tax initiative that will raise the sales tax in Broward from 6 to 7 cents. It's a 30-year referendum that will significantly improve transportation throughout Broward County. And again, as I mentioned earlier, there's something in it for everyone. And primarily what it does, there's money that's set aside for road improvements, and specifically transportation improvements. And one of the big transportation improvements, in addition to what we've talked about for seniors already, speaks directly to the number of buses that we currently have in our county. Right now, we're an underfunded system. We do not have enough service because the complaints that I get, the primary complaints that I get as transportation director, that you have to wait too long for a bus, service ends too early in the evening, it doesn't start soon enough in the morning, and the weekends, I just can't get around because I have to wait too long for a bus. What we've done, and right now our bus fleet is 359. What this plan does, it takes our bus fleet up to 642. And what we guarantee is that when it's fully implemented, that during rush hour, there will be no bus route in this county where you have to wait greater than 30 minutes, and most of them will be significantly better. So the bus system will be significantly improved. One of the most successful services that we have is what's called our Breeze service. It's a limited stop service. It's not the local block and a half service, but it stops every mile and a half. And we find it very, very popular. So we've identified our 8 busiest travel corridors, and we will implement that service. And on those corridors, where in each of those corridors carry over 1 million people today, what we are going to do is make sure that there is a bus every 10 to 15 minutes.
Oh, my goodness. That's fabulous.
And those are our most heavily traveled corridors
That's
today.
Fabulous. Well, let's see. We have Seth Levy, Laura Belgrave. Got a whole slew of people watching you. So you get to see this very articulate, attractive gentleman who does such a good job. And he's so enthusiastic. That's what I love to have you on. You really care about this. I mean, this is bus transportation. This is not eating great food or having entertainment. This is serious stuff.
Well, it's very serious, and it's very important. And one of the most important things to know about this surtax is that more than 30% of it will be paid for by visitors. So those of us that live and work in Broward County are not carrying the entire financial responsibility. Over 30% of the revenues generated will be paid for by tourists. So, I mean, that's probably the best deal that any of us will ever get. So that's important to keep in mind because, I mean, we're very blessed to be in an area where people like to travel to and like to visit and vacation, and they spend a lot of money. So when they spend their dollars here, it's actually helping build our transportation system if we're successful on November 6th.
So right now the tax is?
The tax is 6 cents on the dollar.
Okay.
And it will go to 7 cents. But not everything will be taxed. You know, prescriptions and things of that nature won't be taxed. When we talk about when you go to a restaurant or maybe when you buy clothes, those things will be taxed. But doctor's visits won't be taxed. Your gasoline tax won't rise.
And the food won't be taxed,
and the food won't be. Unprepared food will not be. Groceries.
Well, it seems like it's the best part of anything that you can help people get around because, you know, actually it will help the younger adults because they're always having to pick up their parents. People have to take them around, and this will be an added thing. And I'm going to take the social side of it. I'm going to put my gerontology hat. I think when people ride the bus, they get out into the world. They get to see other people. They have friends. Otherwise, sometimes they sit at home alone, as you know, and they worry. They get depressed. This way, they get on the bus. I always used to ride the bus when I was younger with my kids. I mean, that's how we got around, and we have to just go back to some of that.
You know, it's interesting you say that because I hear that from a lot of our bus drivers, our bus operators, is they look for certain people every day because it's always, you know, good morning, how are you? And it kind of, not only does it make our passengers' day, it makes the day for the bus driver, because they look forward to having people ride their buses and having those conversations, because, again, they recognize, as we all do, that we are a service organization. We are here for one reason, is to transport our passengers, our visitors, and our residents of Broward County efficiently and safely. And we recognize and appreciate the fact that if it weren't for people that ride our buses, we wouldn't have jobs. So we appreciate them coming out and riding, and we really want to do the best that we can for them. And we believe that if we're successful on November 6th, we can do a much better job for our passengers in Broward
So
County.
the nice thing about Facebook Live, people can comment. Laura Belgrave says a tax hike is a tough proposition, but transportation is necessary and lags behind so many countries. I wish you the best in making this happen.
Well, thank you very much.
Laura's a very positive person.
And I would say, Laura, I don't know how long you've lived here in Broward County, but if you've lived here for any significant period of time, you know that if you're driving these streets, your commute time has increased. And my fear is that if we don't do something now, where are we going to be in 5 to 10 years? I've had the good fortune in the past few months to go to both New York and Los Angeles. And, we aren't there in terms of the traffic conditions that they have. But when I was in Los Angeles just a couple weeks ago on the 405, I think it took me about 45 minutes to travel about 6 miles.
On a major highway.
At 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. Oh, forget what it would be at work time, right?
Right. So we know that our population, because of our great weather and our great environment here, people are going to continue to move to Broward, and they're going to bring their cars. So we need to have other forms of transportation to make sure that we're doing the things that we can do to make sure people can still move around this county, because we don't want to become like New York. We don't want to become like Los Angeles or some of the other major metropolitan areas where traffic congestion is so bad that it's very difficult for people to move around.
I want to go back to those individuals who ride the buses, and I want to go back to the social side again. A lot of people have no reason to get dressed up or fix their hair or anything unless they go somewhere. And they will take a lot of time to do this. It's an outing for them. It's not just getting from A to B. It's I'm going to get dressed up. I may meet someone. You never even find, maybe there'll be a romance. Who knows what's going to happen? Because seniors, and I have been on some of the buses, a lot of seniors are riding. And they're friendly. And it's not scary because your buses are clean. They're very well managed. Your bus drivers especially are so kind. And so I think that, I've seen as someone that has a few little challenges, they'll get up out of the bus driver's seat, help them down or help them up. So it's really a privilege. And I have to commend you for the outstanding job that you've done with the buses so far, even not having all the money you need. So let's hope that everyone who's watching this or listening to the radio show, please vote for that 7%. It's 1 more cent. Let's vote for that. It's on page 3, you said?
It's on page 3.
That's going to come up on the 6th of November. And there's so many other things you can tell your kids, too. Listen, you're going to have better traffic, moving traffic faster. The lights will go better, and it's really a win-win situation. So how many more buses will this money provide?
Again, we're going to go from 359 up to 642. And what I did not mention is the plan also calls for 26 miles of light rail. Now, we don't know exactly where the trains will go, but we do know, again, as our population continues to grow, that we're going to need what we call high-capacity transportation. Because, and I'll give an example, State Road 7, 441. Last year, we carried over 6 million passengers on that one corridor. So we can't continue to throw buses at it. We need larger vehicles to move people. And what we've seen in other communities around the country, when you implement light rail or trains, people move, it moves faster, it moves many more people, but communities tend to grow around rail. So you would see growth and development around rail. You'll see the same thing with Brightline. It just started a few months ago. In a few years, I believe that you'll start to see development grow around their rail station. And the same thing will happen if we're lucky enough to implement rail here in Broward County.
I was thinking as you were talking about it, the older cities, of course, had all that rail downtown. And what did they do? You know, cars were coming in, so they pulled up all the rail, except for San Francisco with their...
But if you notice now, they're all bringing it back.
That's right.
Because, again, I was in Los Angeles, and they're building rail all throughout L.A. County. And all over the United States and all over the world, they're reintroducing rail back into cities.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that it's funny how that all happens. It's like, people just never really realized. They thought cars were good, but why did they have to pull that up also? But no one thought that far, right?
Well, I guess these things go in cycles.
Yeah. Well, okay, so let's go into some of the ways. I want to just tell everybody, if you want the schedule, I mean, you don't have to call them. Just get online to broward.org/BCT. And isn't it true that they'll find the schedule, they'll find their location, then they'll find schedules of the buses and the times?
You can do it that way. That's one way to do it. But what we're finding out is that about 2 years ago, we implemented a new app on the telephone where you can just go to your app and you can find all the bus schedules on the app. So you can go to the Apple Store or to the Android store and download the app. It's myride.broward, myride/Broward, and download our app, and you have all the schedules at your phone. So real-time information. Plus, what's actually happening is we have our buses that are transmitting their position all around the county. So when you download your app and tell them where you are, it will tell you the time of the next 3 buses coming to your location. So you don't actually have to go to your computer and go to the schedule anymore. Just go to your app.
Okay, it doesn't ring you and say, okay, the bus is here. No, I'm kidding.
Doesn't do that
Not
yet.
yet.
We're working on that. We're working on that.
No, that's terrific. Well, let's go back to this whole system, though, of how much money do you need to bring in and how many more buses? Will you tell us that again?
Well, again, over 30 years, and understand this is a 30-year program, it will raise about $15.5 billion.
With a B?
With a B. Now, that's just money that we raise from the tax itself. What we in the transportation world know that and working with our partners at the federal government and the state government, if we bring money to the table, that then leverages other dollars coming from the state and the federal government. So we very conservatively estimate that if we raise the $15.5 billion, we can leverage another $3.5 billion from the state and federal government. So the $15 billion or $15.5 billion that we raise actually becomes $18 billion when we look at the money that it will help draw down from Washington and from Tallahassee.
And how fast can you implement a lot of the improvements? Let's say the check comes on the 7th, which it doesn't. But let's say that. And you get this big pot of gold. Tell us what you have to do. Are you prepared to do that now?
We have been planning for this for quite some time, and
right.
I did not want to be in a position of the voters approving this and me having to say, well, we've got to wait for 2 or 3 years for something to happen. That would not be the case.
Uh-huh.
What we're planning for is in the first year, a 10% service increase the very first year. And the issue with that is it takes us a while to actually buy buses. But what we've done is we've actually set buses aside, and we're preparing those buses in case we're successful, so that all we would really have to do would be to hire the people to drive the buses and to repair the buses, and then we've got plans to put those new schedules in place. So as soon as we're able to bring the employees on board, we'll be able to start the new service.
And one thing I should say is that when it's hot outside, as in the summer, you go on the bus, it's cool. I would think, I don't know if it happens, wouldn't it be nice for some people, and I'm sure they do this, get on the bus and stay on the bus for your whole route and then go home? I'll bet people do that.
That does happen.
I would think so.
We do have people who need to, who may not have a place to go during the day. And on occasion, we will have someone who will get on the bus because it is air conditioned and stay on the bus.
Right. And you don't put them off. I mean, they get to sit there and enjoy everything, right?
Well, we.
Oh, if I started something, I'm sorry. But, I know this will happen.
Yeah, we try very hard to work with our passengers. We recognize that in some cases, there's particular circumstances.
I don't mean homeless. I mean like a nice lady who doesn't have anywhere to go, and she gets on the bus, and she just wants to ride the bus and see who's coming on, who's getting off, and who she can talk to.
Well, again, if someone, and typically what passengers do, for the most part, is buy an all-day pass. If they buy an all-day pass.
Tell us about that.
Well, an all-day pass means just that. You can ride buses all day long.
Okay, and for a senior, how much is that?
Well, seniors always get seniors and students always get half price. So our base fare is $2 for a one-way trip, and it's $5 for an all-day pass. But seniors are half price, so they're $2.50 for the all day.
That's fabulous. And they can hop off and hop on, right? So if they want to go to the museum, if they want to go have some lunch, they just get off, then they get back on.
That's correct.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, well, we love our seniors. I mean, they've taken care of us, so it's time for us to take care of them.
Right. And what is a senior, 65?
Yes.
Okay. So, all right. So now we have, I think we're about to run out of time, but I want to thank you. I know you have a busy schedule, but to come on to our radio show and do what you do and with such a friendly smile. But Chris Walton of Broward County Transportation Director, he's got a big job, and we want to help you make it bigger. We want everyone to vote for this on the 6th. Put number 7, right? That's where it is? Yes. No, it's 7%, but it's 3, number 3 on the ballot.
It's on the third page.
Third page. I'm sorry. Third page. I get that straight.
1 cent increase.
1 cent increase. Let's do it. So, Chris, thank you very much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity.